Okay, now folks, this is your Lahariya Tola where the Magadhan army assembled, and this is your Kursaha where the Lichavi army assembled. And folks, this is Gola Patti where the temple stands on the spot where Anand immolated himself. And see, this is the Ganges, and just behind you see those trees. That is Gola Patti where Anand immolated himself. And folks, this is a clear view of Gola Patti where Anand immolated himself. Now, how did I come to these conclusions to identify these places? To understand it, please view this video till the end. Now, the story of Anand's Mahaparinirvana. The story of Anand's Mahaparinirvana, see, the Theravada version and the Mahayana version are different. But I haven't found any proof of the Theravada version. The Mahayana version has got 6 or 7 stupas as proof of their story version of Anand's death. So folks, Anand, after the death of the Buddha, he is very sad, downhearted. Sariputra has died, Mahamaugliana got murdered, Mahakashyapa was also had died, and then this Anand was feeling very lonely and downhearted. So the Lichavi king invited him to stay with him. So Anand goes and starts crossing the Ganges from the southern side. See, on the south was Magadh, and on the north was the Lichavi country, Vajji country. So he gets onto a boat with his disciples and he's crossing the Ganges. When Ajatashatru hears of it, he comes with his army, and then shouts out to Anand to come back. See, that place is Lahariya Tola. Lahariya means to create a problem. Lahariya means to create a problem. Lahariya Tola is the place where Ajatashatru's army was lined up and they created this problem. Please come back. This is a satellite picture of the Ganges, and see, this is your Lahariya Tola. Lahariya Tola. Anand was crossing the Ganges, and see, actually the ancient Ganges was this. This is the Ganges has shifted south. Now this is the ancient Ganges, just the road is on the banks of the ancient Ganges. So Anand is here, and this is where he commits suicide by fire. See, it's Anand Golwa. Anand Golwa. Aag ka gola means fire. Aag ka gola means fire. He became a round ball of fire. It seems he used some explosive material to blow himself up. And I have got proof that those days they did have that explosive material. So this is where he cried out. Bakarpur means to cry out in anguish. This is where he cried out in anguish, because the two armies see here, Ajatashatru came here, and this is where his army was stationed on this bank of the Ganges. This is Lahariya Tola. Lahariya means to create a problem. By telling Anand to come back, Ajatashatru created his army created the problem. He's come back. And then from the northern side, when the Lichavis heard of the Magadhan army on the southern side, the Lichavi king came with his army. And the place is called Kursaha. Kursaha means to instigate. To instigate, to get angry. So they shouted out to Anand, who was in the middle of the Ganges on his boat, you come to the north, you come this side, keep to your original plan. So this is your Lahariya Tola where the Ajatshatru's army was stationed, and they shouted out to Anand to come back. And this is where Anand was, Bakarpur, he was, where he was, in anguish, Bakarpur. And this is Anand Golwa. And this is Kursaha, where on the banks, you can see this is the change in vegetation. On the banks is the Lichavi army. They were instigating Anand to come over. And Anand is in anguish up here. This is Bakarpur. And he goes up, he tells his disciples that he is going to commit Parinirvana. So to divide his relics into two halves and give it to both these two parties. And this is Anand Golwa, he goes up in fire. So folks, that is Kursaha, where the Lichavi army was instigating Anand. So Anand gets angry. See, Anand gets angry, and in the middle of the Ganges, now the place where he immolated himself is on the northern side of the Ganges, because that is the ancient riverbed now. The Ganges has shifted south. So Anand, he, according to Mahayana texts, he went up into the air and blew up into a round fiery ball. See, the word for that is Gola, Golwa. So on the northern side of the Ganges is Anand Golwa. Exactly north of Lahariya Tola is Anand Gola. Slightly south of Kursaha. Kursaha, where the Vajji army was lined up and was, instigating him to come north, and they instigated him to get angry. So Anand gets angry and he immolates, it seems he immolates himself, because the story is such. And then, so you have Lahariya Tola means to create a problem, Lahar means to create a problem. This is where Ajatshatru's army created a problem by shouting out to Anand to come back. And this is Kursaha, where the Lichavi army instigated Anand to continue on his original course. And folks, this is Bakarpur, where Anand was in anguish. He was speechless. That's what Bakarpur means. Anguish, speechless. So this is the spot where he goes up in fire. Anand Golwa. Aka Gola means a round ball of fire. Anand Golwa is a round. Anand goes up into a round ball of fire. It seems like he used some explosive material, folks. And this is Harail. See, wherever you see self-inflicted death, see, the stupa is meant to be prayed to. But where will the monks who are looking after the stupa, and where will the pilgrims stay? That is a sanghrama nearby, and all the sanghramas with self-inflicted deaths are a version of HAR. It is Harail. It depends on the local dialect, but generally it is that. So folks, this is where Anand went up in flames. And then the disciples, they make two lots of two lots of relics on the northern banks, because they can't straight away take the relics and go to the southern banks, the Magadh share. So the relics are on the northern bank. The place where they put the relics which belong to the Lichavis, that went to the Lichavis, is called Dharni Patti. Dharni Patti. Dharni means to keep there. So that is where the Lichavi share of relics, Anand's half-body relics, was kept. And that is where they picked up the relics, and took it to their Pidhauli, and they enshrined it in a stupa called Adharpur. Adhar means half. So that is a thing. And the Magadhan share was dumped on the northern banks first, because they were divided into two lots, and that stupa is called Dumri. Dumri, because it was the lower half of Anand's body. See, the Lichavis, they cheated. They were on the northern banks of the Ganges, and the division seems to have taken place on the northern banks.
So you have your Lahariya Tola up here. Lahariya Tola, where the southern army was, Ajatshatra, and the northern army there. And then you have Bakarpur, and here where he, committed suicide. So now, according to the Anand's orders, they divided the body, the relics, into two parts. See, if they kept the relics in one part, the people from the Lichavi army would come and collect everything, because it would take some time for the Ajatshatu's army to cross the Ganges. So what they do is, see, the Lichavi army can easily come and collect it. So what they do is, they put the bottom part of Anand's body here. Look at the braids. See, there is a lot more on the ground than what is written in books. They put the bottom parts of Anand's body here, and the Lichavi share of Anand's body there. Understand? That is Dharni Patti. Dharni Patti, east and west. And this is Dumri, this is south and north. So, north Dumri will be the, sanghrama in charge of this stupa, and west Dharni Patti will be the sanghrama in charge of this stupa. So, they put the bottom part. So naturally, the Lichavis will go for the head part. This is the head part. And they take it and they make a stupa called Nandpur Saroop. And then, by the time they are taking their share from here, the head part, they are collecting the head part, the disciples hurriedly take the bottom part, and here, this is, dump it here. This is Athmal Gola. Athmal means half relics. Mal means the shitty part. Athmal. Mal means the shitty part and the relics. So this is, and Ath means half. Athmal Gola next to Lahariya Tola. They dump the, half body, the lower part of Anand's body here. And from here, the Lichavi, Mauryans take the, relics and make a stupa on top of it. So, folks, this is your Lichavi's share, Dharni Patti. This is, they take, the Lichavi army takes the share from here, and they make a stupa in their, Vaishali, which is actually Pidhauli.
So the Lichavis took the upper part, and the sanghrama in charge of the half-body relic stupa they made in Vaishali is Nandpur Saroop, means the dead figure of Anand. And the half relics of the Magadh share was Dumri, means the bottom part. So later on, that share was taken by boat and dumped on the southern banks of the Ganges near Lahariya Tola, where Ajatshatra created this problem. And Where it was dumped, the stupa is Athmal Gola. Athmal means half mal. So folks, enjoy the videos, the pictures of, first I will show you Anand's story, and then you can enjoy the pictures of Dharni Patti, which was the Lichavi share of relics dumped on the northern banks of the Ganges. And the, what do you call it, the sanghrama in charge of that is Dharni Patti West. So
see, Anand, how he decided to die, he was hearing a person in Magadh repeat the Buddha's law, teachings, and he was repeating it wrongly. So Anand, having heard him, his feelings were moved towards him, and full of pity he approached the place where he was. He desired to point out his mistakes and direct him in the right way. The Sramanera, smiling, said, "Your reverence is of great age. Your interpretation of the words is a mistaken one. My teacher is a man of much enlightenment. His years, springs and autumns, are in their full maturity. Madam, he is much younger than you. You have grown old and what do you call it? Thing. I have received from him personally the true method of interpreting. There can be no mistake." Anand remained silent and then went away, and with a sigh he said, "Although my years are many, yet for men's sake I was wishful to remain longer in the world, to hand down and defend the true law. But now men are stained with sin, and it is exceedingly difficult to instruct them. To stay longer would be useless. I will die soon. He will die soon." On this, going from Magadh, he went towards the city of Vaishali. Now, and was now in the middle of the Ganges. See, in another version, I read that he was crossing the Rohini in Nepal. See, the Nepal has done a great job, because people couldn't trace the places. Nepal has been claiming left, right and center a whole lot of Buddhist stories in Nepal. Where do you have the Lichavis in Nepal? Where do you have the, what do you call it, Ajachatru Magadh in Nepal? And was now in the middle of the Ganges. Now this is clean. This is Huen Tsang writing that it is the Ganges where this story took place. Of the Ganges in a boat crossing the river. At this time the king of Magadh, hearing of Anand's departure, his feelings were deeply affected, and towards him, and so preparing his chariot, he hastened after him and his followers to ask him to return. And now his host of warriors, myriads in number, were on the southern bank of the river, when the king of Vaishali, hearing of Anand's approach, was moved by sorrowful affection, and equipping his host, he also went with all speed to meet him. See, I showed you Lahariya Tola, where Ajatshatu's army created the problem, and Kursaha, where the Lichavi army created. Actually, that is the Digvai Gotra, Lichavis, to meet him. His myriad of soldiers were assembled on the opposite bank, that is Kursaha, where they were, instigating Anand to carry on, of the river, the north side. And the two armies faced each other, with their banners and accoutrements shining in the sun. Anand, fearing lest there should be a conflict and a mutual slaughter, raised himself from the boat into mid-air, and there displayed his spiritual capabilities, and forthwith attained nirvana. He seemed as though encompassed by fire. He went up in a ball of flame. That's what the name of the stupa Anand Golwa is. See, Aag ka Gola is a ball of flame. So that is Anand Gola. He went up into a ball of fire. He used some explosives to blow him apart, and his bones fell in two parts. See, if he used explosive to blow him apart, his bones would have fallen all over the place. Of course, up here they say one to the north and one to the south. No, they collected the bones and then they made two sets of piles. One was the lower part, which they kept near the place where Anand committed suicide, and the upper part they kept it at a distance so that the Lichavis would go to collect that upper part. Within that time they would take the lower part and take it to the south of the river. Otherwise the Lichavis would have snatched all the relics, side and the other on the north side of the river. Thus the two kings each took a part, and whilst the soldiers raised their piteous cries, they all returned home and built stupas over the relics and paid them religious worship. Okay, now this is the story of Anand's self-inflicted nirvana. So here it is Lahariya Tola, where the Ajatshatu's army was lined up and they created the problem. Lahar lagana means create problem. And then this is Kursaha, where the Lichavi army was lined up and they were instigating. Kursaha means to instigate him to continue, and they instigated him to get angry. And this is Bakarpur. Bakarpur means to be in anguish. Be in anguish, speechless in anguish. Bakarpur means speechless in anguish. And this is your Anand Golwa, where he went up in flames. This was actually the Ganges, folks. See, the Ganges has gone off. This is the ancient bed of the Ganges. This is where he went up in flames. And then they divided the relics. The bottom part they kept it here, and the upper part they kept it here. That's Dharni Patti, and the bottom part is Dumri. And see, the Lichavis, such a sly one, they made the stupa up here. They call it Dumri because they have given the bottom part. Anyway, and this is the sanghrama in charge of this stupa, and this is Dharni Patti East. Dharni Patti West will be the sanghrama in charge of this stupa. So the Lichavis took it from there and they made there, and the Anand's disciples take his the southern share, Ajatshatu's share, and they take it to the south of the river. That is Athmal Gola. Just next to Lahariya Tola is Athmal Gola. Ath means half, Mal means the bottom part or the shitty part or the relics, folks. So, and that also they dump it just next to where the Ajatshatu's army was. So now check out the pictures of these places.
Okay, now folks, this is your Lahariya Tola, where the Lichavi, Ajatshatu's Magadhan army was assembled. And this is the place where, see, this is a Havan praying spot on the banks of the ancient Ganges, where the Magadh army was lined up, Lahariya Tola, folks. And this is your north of the Ganges, Kursaha, where the Lichavi army was lined up, folks. And the Lichavi army, and this is Bakarpur, where Anand was, speechless in anguish. This is on the stupa where Anand was speechless in anguish on the Ganges. And this is this boy is sitting on the stupa. He doesn't know on what great thing he is sitting on. On the stupa. And here is the dead Ganges, and you can see behind the trees
that is your Anand Golwa, where Anand committed suicide. And this temple is most probably right on the spot where Anand committed suicide, because it is on the highest point of the stupa, folks, of Anand Golwa. Anand Golwa means to go up in flames. The Gola means, Aka Gola means, a ball of flame. Flames. It seems he blew himself up here with some explosive material. Anyway, here you have Dharni Patti. Now, Dharni Patti is the place where the Lichavi share of the stupa relics were kept. See, this is your Dharni Patti, where the Lichavi share of the relics was kept for the Lichavis to take. And folks, this is your Dumri south. Dumri south, where the Magadh army's half body relics, the bottom part of Anand's relics was kept. See, this is your Dumri south, where the bottom part of Anand's body relics were kept. See how they use their brains. They kept the upper part of Anand's body at a distance. See, this is your your Dharni Patti East. These people have just won the elections in Dharni Patti, where they kept the upper part of Anand's relics for the Lichavis to collect. And that was Dharni Patti East. And then your Dumri South is where they put the relics of the share of Ajatshatu. And then of course this is your Athmal Gola, south of the Ganges, where they dumped the lower part of Anand's body, south of the Ganges. See, this is a temple where people are praying, and in Athmal Gola. Athmal Gola means the lower half of Anand's body. Lower half of Anand's body. So folks, these are ladies going for some celebrations in Athmal Gola. Folks, if you liked this video, if you found it educative, if you appreciated it, then don't forget to follow, like and subscribe my page, Buddha Exhumed. Folks, thank you.